Hello, this is Power Panda showcasing another F-Zero hack. This one is called Zephyr Cup. It is made by Zephyrm, also known as Westwind, in the F-Zero online forums. So Zephyrm was one of the playtesters for my Game Boy Advance Vintage Velocity series and was really great at the QA for that. So when they were looking for volunteers to help test this new hack, I volunteered right away. And I think these 5 tracks make a pretty good cup, and I'm happy to show it to you. So we're going to do Grand Prix, and because this is a showcase, we're going to do beginner. I'm not actually that great at F-Zero. And the format we're going to take is I will give you 1 lap just to take in the atmosphere, and then we'll start doing some commentary. Let's go! So, you can see this is SNES Porttown with the venue. A little bit of recoloring. I like the color that has been used. And we start off with an homage to the SNES tracks with that jump over the rough dirt. Coming in here, which is inspired by the Game Boy Advance tracks with the slalom. We've got our magnet beams and on to the finish. So Zephyrm wanted to start at the difficulty of about Queen League and then end at King League or above with the 5th track on this hack. I think he managed to achieve that. So, some things I really like about this, aside from the recoloring, I like that he's been able to blend the SNES and Game Boy Advance, where we've kind of got these 2 different interpretations of these familiar F-Zero venues. And they've got their own style, and he's managed to mix them while making it feel great. So that slalom portion, which is kind of the main gimmick of this track, is not actually seen in any track that you race on in a Grand Prix. It's more from the Zero Test and Survival modes of Grand Prix, Legend, and Climax. And it adds a really unique showpiece to the beginning of it. If you've done any hacking on F-Zero, you know that there's something called the path, which determines which direction you go on the track. It is what the AI cars follow, or the other players, but it also determines where you bounce when you hit the walls. So if you don't set a path and you hit a wall, you are just going to go clipping through the background until you hit the finish line. And on something like the slalom, in order to get that path right, you got to know what you're doing, and Zephyrm nailed that on the first try. So there's Porttown Breeze Circuit. It's the easiest track in the hack. I forgot to say, but I am joined today by one of the Pandalings. Go ahead and say hi.
Hi.
You may hear some comments and reactions from him. This is Big Blue Cold Horizon. Yeah, the Big Blue music is pretty great. Remember, the first lap, we're going to try to just let them take in the surroundings. So, Big Blue Cold Horizon, you can see the kind of sunset colors in Big Blue. And we've got elements of this track that come from SNES, elements that come from Game Boy Advance. This slip zone right down the middle of a curved portion, that's something you'd see a lot in the Game Boy Advance tracks, as well as slip zones on a hairpin turn like this. The pit zone comes from SNES. This dirt patch from SNES, and this right here, we've got the barriers coming out into the middle of the road. That's something you see in Climax track design. So, just like Porttown Breeze Circuit, yeah, as I said, I'm not very good at F-Zero, even though I love it. As you saw in Port Town Breeze Circuit, Zephyrm's managed to blend the SNES and Game Boy Advance versions into something that's kind of unique and wholly his own, and yet it feels familiar the whole time you're playing it. I have missed that boost every time. So the horizon in the back, it took quite a few tries to get those colors right. When you're doing something like this, it's really hard to nail the style where you've got the cartoony, but not as desaturated as something like Game Boy Advance. So first try, or first couple of tries, the sunset was just way too bright. And it really speaks to the power of the tools, FC Edit. It was made by Greg and Catador, that Zephyrm was just able to go in and keep iterating on the colors until we found something that looked just right. Now, actually one of the hardest parts with this track is figuring out where to use your once per lap boost, because there's a lot of hairpin turns, there's a lot of ice, and a lot of the areas where you would use your boost already have a boost marker on the track. So in playing it a few times, I've found that right before the finish line is the best place to use it. This is another great spot, and if you can take turns unlike I can, but on the last lap, if you use your boost in the place that I think is the optimal spot, you only get the benefit of half of it, so I use it a little bit early. Alright, Big Blue Cold Horizon. Next up we have Metal Fort. I forget the name of it. We're about to see. Metal Fort Aerial Fortress. And again, we're going to give you one lap just to enjoy the scenery. Alright, so Metal Fort. This is one of the venues that was coming from the Satellaview F-Zero Grand Prix 2, Week 2. Now, just last year we recovered Week 1. We were able to recover the Forest venue. But Metal Fort, we still have not recovered this. This is still technically lost media. I was involved in a project a little over a year ago where we restored it based on video footage. I was responsible for restoring the backgrounds, trying to get the colors as I thought they were in the original. And to see something like this in a hack, where all of that hard work we did for restoration now allows people to use Metal Fort as a venue in their own creative pursuits. I'm just so happy to see it. I hope someday we get the original. There's always some guesswork involved when you're doing a restoration, but until then, I love this venue. Now, Metal Fort, as part of the Satellaview tracks, was never used in a future game. So Forest and Metal Fort are unique to the SNES Satellaview. However, it has a lot of similarities with Lightning, which was introduced in later F-Zero titles. I kind of think it was probably a prototype of the aesthetic they were going for. So what Zephyrm's done here, because Metal Fort, we only have 2 tracks, and those are technically lost media, he had a lot more freedom to make this track what he wanted to. So he included some elements of Lightning, which I think were great. That's the downpull magnets that you see. But then he also included Mario Kart DS as an inspiration. So this is based on the one in Mario Kart DS where you are racing on Bowser's ships, and there's bullet bills coming at you. So he managed to use a different Nintendo game to fill in 20 years of history or 30 years of history that didn't happen, and in a way that just makes it feel like its own thing. It's my favorite track in the entire hack. And on this last lap, I am going to try to get a very satisfying shortcut. Let's hope I don't die. Go! Ah, so satisfying. Alright. Track number 4 coming up. Here we have Firefield Chainburn. 1 lap with no commentary. So, Horizon, you can see, is based off of Maximum Velocity. And one of the unique things about this track, it's, again, blending things from SNES and Game Boy Advance, but SNES never had lava, or spots on the ground where if you drove over it, they would hurt you like this, that looked like dirt. So Zephyrm has added in lava to the SNES game, using this fire bar from SNES Firefield. And of course, mines everywhere, cutouts, pit zones where you have to take the long way around. Everything you could want, except for easy. Oh, there's a mine. Doing QA for this was kind of interesting. I had to hit every corner on purpose to make sure that I didn't clip through the scenery. I had to hit every mine. And I discovered during that process that when you have 2 mines close together and you hit one, excuse me, launches you in the air, and it can actually launch you over the second mine. Lots of good places to use your boost in this one. It's final lap, and I want to make sure I survive, so I'm going to take those healing bits. Found another mine. Rank 2, we got this. Okay, final is Silence of Zephyr Strike. This is a super long track. Now, one of the things you're probably noticing from the way I'm driving is that there is wind. First time I've seen wind on a Silence track. Now, the track layout, as you can see from the mini-map, is based on Silence Nightmare. It's a trilogy of tracks in Climax. For those of you who never played Climax, 1, go play it. 2, most tracks in Climax have an easy version, an intermediate version, and a hard version. Some of them only have 2, a lot of them have 3. Ah, there we go. Meant to do that. So yeah, the Silence Nightmares, and the first time through it feels like a nightmare. You will get it though. One of the things I really like that Zephyrm did is if you look at the road stripes. The road stripes indicate where you have to deal with the wind. So if you have stripes, then the wind will be blowing. If you don't have stripes, then the wind won't be blowing. And so it's a really good visual indicator, something that the Deathwind courses never really had, to tell you how you should be driving and how you should be compensating. And that type of visual feedback is probably the thing I like least about the original SNES F-Zero, and where the later versions actually did a lot better. You will notice that this is quite a long track. So keeping with the tradition of Firefield, the final track in the hack is allowed to be quite a bit longer. And this one earns it. It's a little bit of an endurance race. Passing all of these bumpers, which in the community before F-Zero 99 came out, we referred to them as turbo snails. Reminds me that there's another person in the community named Alejandro who is working on revamping an older hack where you race as the turbo snails. Now you'd think with that maybe he'd soup them up a little bit, but he really didn't. You have to drive at these lower speeds. Every jump could be the last one you make. And it's a really interesting take on things. Alright, final lap. Think we're gonna do it, guys? I don't know, I don't have a lot of health. Already at power down. Alright, I got a little bit. It's gonna survive a little bit longer. Oh, we can do this. There we go. Just made it. So there you go, the Zephyr Cup by Zephyrm. He claims the names are not related. Go check it out. It's one of the better hacks that I've played.